Oh, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my artistic and spiritual workshop. I hope everyone's doing well today. I got my coffee here, Queen of the Universe. Shh. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm ready to do some talking. I get asked the question a lot on my Instagram and my Facebook, so we're going to get into it. Okay. The question I get asked a lot in recent times is, why do I not post rituals or spells or ceremonies in their entirety on social media? Whether it's YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. And I have multiple reasons for this. Now, of course, to each their own. There are so many different practitioners out there, witches and occultists and priestesses and priests that do different things online. This is just my own personal experience, my own personal opinion. So, no shade, no tea against anyone else by any means. I love watching other people work and so on and so forth. But I just have particular reasons why I don't do that. And don't mind my crazy hair. It is currently storming and raining in Florida, and the humidity, like, this hair is just doing whatever it wants to do. So don't mind the mess. It's just like this side is straight, this side wants to be curly. I don't even know. But anyway, why don't I post this stuff online? Well, like I said, for multiple reasons. I do have a following, although very small, and when it comes in the grand scheme of social media. But I do know there are people that follow me at all different levels of practitioner when it comes to the craft. There are some witches that are in the early stages of their learning their path that I've kind of taken under my wing, and they'll ask me questions privately, and of course I answer those questions free and willing. So if you ever have a question for me, by all means you can leave a comment or send me a private message if you don't want it to be for public consumption. I completely understand that, and nothing that anybody questions asks me will I ever post online or post socially or names or anything like that. So if you ever have a question for me, by all means ask it, whether it's privately or in public. I will answer the question. But I digress a little bit, back to the original statement. Why don't I post full rituals online? One, I don't want them to be copied. Not for any egotistical reasons or oh, this is my witchcraft, can't nobody else do it. That's not it at all. I worry about some of the newer individuals into the craft. I've been doing witchcraft for just over 10 years, and in the grand scheme of, things, that's not that long. That's not that long, but I do feel that when it comes to the practice of witchcraft or magic or whatever your spiritual beliefs may be in this realm, that there are certain levels of education that you should have or experience you should have, depending on what ritual or ceremony or spell you're trying to do. I'm a solitary witch. I've never belonged to a coven, and I definitely have had to learn that the hard way. It was very educational, but it was the hard way that when I first made my transition, I grew up Catholic. So there are people in my family who are what I would call moon children and stuff like that. But there's a difference between being a moon child and being a practitioner of the craft. There's many different levels. There's a lot of gray there. But I didn't have a lot of people I could go to. So really all I had was turning to online and watching videos, reading books, and different things like this. And this can be very beneficial, and you can definitely grow a lot from it. But it can also be dangerous. And I don't mean dangerous like in the aspect of to sound dark or anything, because I don't mean it that way, because you're not going to hurt yourself ultimately. But there are things I felt that I tried too soon. One, simply not knowing any better. where I probably should have waited. Like I said, I did learn a lot, but I worry that if I were to put a particular ritual online that might be what we would call advanced, even though I even hate saying that statement, but just for context, like advanced ritual, I wouldn't want somebody who's in the very early stages of their practice to try and perform that ritual if they don't know. Because another thing too, I don't do like, I've never done like a tutorial type thing where I've sat down and was like, okay, this is why I'm doing this is why I'm doing that, you know, so on and so forth. So if I was just performing a ritual full on, like just recorded my ritual and then put it online, there's a lot of context and the whys that would be left out, because other practitioners out there, you know, that when you're going through a ritual, it's not as if you're saying out loud, okay, I'm taking this herb for this purpose and I'm doing this with it for that purpose. You're just performing the movement and the practice, and you know, your vibrational work and energy work is a fluid movement as you do it in your ritual. It's not a tutorial. Those are two different things, like a tutorial ritual versus an actual, you know, in real life ritual versus how you would break it down for tutorial purposes. So that's another reason too why I've never just filmed my ritual work, because absolutely context and intention matter when you're doing you know, witchcraft, regardless of what practice you're from, religion, or, you know, whatever your spiritual calling may be. Intention is like one of the biggest key factors when it comes to that. And certain rituals and certain aspects may require you to speak that intention out loud. Sometimes, depending on the ritual or context, it may not. So that wouldn't come across in just recording a video of ritual and then having it online. So somebody who is watching that may not be educated in the certain aspect of ritual I'm performing, and then they go to do it and they leave out an important factor or something that really mattered just because ultimately they didn't know to look for it or know what I was doing within that ritual, I do feel that can be detrimental to one's practices or self or spirit, or just, you know, depending on what's going on. And of course, there's a lot of gray in there. I'm speaking in generalized terms because it's not as if the craft is some cookie cutter thing that's going on. And that leads me to another reason. It's not cookie cutter. Like I stated earlier, when I first started down the road of figuring out who I am as a witch, as an occultist, I did, you know, do that. I'm guilty of the very thing I worry about putting my rituals online, is because I did learn in some aspects from watching other practitioners and other witches and listening to what they do. And then I would try it myself. I'm a solitary witch. I've never been a part of a coven or anything like that. I have had mentors throughout my life that have taught me a great deal, but I've never belonged to like a group of practitioners where if I had a question, I could just automatically go to that group and say, here's my question. How's the best way I go about figuring this out, or the best way I go about doing something? A lot of it was trial and error. And often it wouldn't work, and there were times I was quite frustrated by this, but it's because when it comes to the craft, it should definitely be what calls to you. I do very much believe it's an individualized thing. Your path is unique to you, as it should be, and no one should tell you what to believe, how to believe, what to practice, how to practice when it comes to your spiritual growth and path and you as a practitioner. So that's another thing, is ultimately I believe that if you copy someone and then try to do that, step for step, word for word, it's probably not going to work. And I found that out a lot because I didn't know any better for one in the beginning. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of people to go and talk to and ask these questions to, but I was not aware of this. I learned that very quickly, and then I also very quickly realized I had to make my practice what I needed it to be, what it meant to me, what were my intentions, what were my goals, what were my spirit guides telling me. And that's another thing too. There are definitely a lot of witches and practitioners out there that are very good at teaching the craft. I wouldn't say that I'm a good teacher per se of the craft, just because I'm not very technical. Not that there's anything wrong with people who are. You know, this is no tea, no shade against anyone by any means. But I'm not technical. A lot of my beliefs and practices I've honed, and I've done, you know, when I dream, if I have a vision, a certain deity comes to me, or I see myself performing something within a dream, and I'm like, what is that? You know, I will put that into real life practice. I might do a little research on the back end to kind of truly understand the nitty gritty. But if a spirit guide or a deity comes to me in a vision or meditation or a dream and says, here's the answer to what you've been asking for, this is how you should do it. Ultimately, I will put that into practice, and I don't always know where that practice came from. And 9 times out of 10, within, you know, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, I'll come across someone or another practitioner, or somehow end up in a situation that'll click a light bulb that'll say, you did this way because of this. And I'll be like, oh, there's that connection. There's why that was. There's why I had that vision. There's why I had that dream. That's what was going on there. Okay, now it makes sense. And that's a very, to give that to someone else, which is a personal vision, and try to teach that in context of my own personal vision, is not a good way to teach people. So that's another thing too, why I don't put, you know, the majority of, well, really any rituals or ceremonies or spells I do online. I will do little like clip-its, like 5 to 10 second clip-its of maybe my altar setup or a particular thing like that, and be like, oh, I'm communicating with this deity tonight. And, you know, I'll show that, but ultimately I do not show the ritual. I do not show what's going on. Or even if I give a little clip-it of the ritual, I've removed the verbiage and overlaid music, so you can't even hear what I'm saying or the context of which is taking place within that certain ritual or spell or ceremony. I might show some of the things I make for a particular ritual, or maybe a relic that called to me and then I found it. I might show that, but I never show a ritual or spell or ceremony in its entirety. And those are the reasons why. Not that anyone who does is wrong. You know, this is all personal experience and how I personally feel, which in no way, shape, or form has to be anyone else's personal beliefs or feelings. That's just, you know, how I feel about it. And that's okay. And how other people choose to do it is okay as well. I definitely believe that when it comes to practicing your craft, it should be what you are comfortable with. It should be what you believe in. It should be what calls to you. It should never be dictated by anyone else in any way, shape, or form. That's just how I feel about it. And some people will say that's wrong. Some people will say that's right. And that's okay. I have no problem with that. You know, if anyone has a question, you can either leave it in the comments, or if you want to privately, you know, send me a DM or a private message, that's fine. I have no problem answering questions. I actually get a lot of questions from other practitioners, and I ask questions of other practitioners. You are always learning. Your education within the craft never ends. You'll continue to learn till the day you cross over into that spiritual realm, new things, and be enlightened. It is never ending, which is a very beautiful thing. I absolutely enjoy that aspect of being a practitioner. So yes, that's the question for today. I'm going to start making more videos like this where I sit down and talk to you. A lot of my videos on my channel tend to be time lapse, or videos of my husband and I doing paranormal investigations or historical investigations. But I definitely want to start opening up more of a dialogue with some of my followers and the people who subscribe to me. I've kind of held off because it's been something I'm nervous about. Although it's very public that I'm a practitioner, I tend to keep my practices really close to home. Like, I wouldn't say secretive, because like, if you know me in person, like, you know, my husband, my mom, my dad, my brother, my cousins, my friends, they know. Obviously, it's not, you know, you come to my house and I have an altar room that's just, you know, filled with all my stuff, and you know, so it's a very personal thing sometimes. So I've been really nervous about talking about it on like such a public, like where I get into the nitty gritty and like private aspects of my being a practitioner. But that is something I definitely want to do. I feel I need to get over that fear and just go ahead and do it. So that's what I'm going to try to do, and incorporate that in with other videos that I put on my channel. So that's today's video. Peace, love, happiness. Make sure you take care of one another, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.